Mark Caputo, who covers the Trump White House for Axios and joins us now. You haven't got your hat yet, so that was quite a performance once again from the president. Trump was right about everything. You want to start with the gold card? Because that was a new one.
I think the platinum card is coming next.
I guess.
It might be for trillionaires. Yeah, this is the first I heard of it, so I got nothing beyond.
You got nothing on this one, right? Oh, trust me, that's okay. We have plenty of other things to talk about. So yeah, he says $5 million a pop.
There's more.
Right? Exactly, for people to come in, and he's, it says other countries like Canada do something similar. Of course, Trump puts a name on it like that and says, hey, we're going to use this. People who create jobs and want to come in from overseas, they'll pay for this, and we'll have pay down our debt. Says we could sell 1 million of them. We'll see. So
I wonder, like, if I were there, so how does that work with the birth tourism that he opposes with the 14th Amendment? I'm just curious.
I do not see. Yeah.
If you pay $5 million, or can you pay $2.5 million and have your baby here, and then have it as
you ask all the good questions. There's some guy named Brian he keeps calling on. I have no idea who it is, who basically always asks, how great were you today, Mr. President? But I'm not sure who that is. So we should have you in there.
Yeah, that's Brian. I believe formerly of Right Side Broadcasting, who is or at least was the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, of course. Oh, well, of course.
I think he's at a new conservative right wing or pro-Trump.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because we had the first question yesterday and a bunch of questions today, and they basically are, oh, that was great, Mr. President. How great was it? Anyway, the card. So the card comes out, and then the Ukraine stuff, right, which you wrote about this morning, which we can talk about in a second. But Zelensky's coming in on Friday, apparently. That will be interesting. I guess they have this mineral rights deal together. So I wonder what it'll be like when the two of them get together on Friday.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be exceedingly warm, but Zelenskyy drove enough of a bargain to be able to save some face and say, well, we got some sort of guarantees out of it. There was a problem before. The United States basically wanted access to these mineral rights, as much as $500 billion worth of them, and no real security guarantees. From what we understand, there still aren't very firm security guarantees in here, but there isn't that $500 billion number. And there are more Ukrainian rights to more of their minerals that they're currently mining than was under the old deal. Also, the old deal would have adjudicated disputes in a court of New York, which Ukraine didn't want. So let's remember this, that even if it gets signed, Russia is still invading Ukraine, and people are still dying.
Right. And
this is just the first step in trying to get a peace deal. And despite what the president has said, President Trump, is this really hinges on Vladimir Putin. He's the guy who invaded Ukraine twice, and he's the guy who's not pulling out.
Yeah, you were there, I think, at Mar-a-Lago when the president made those initial comments that seemed to kind of blame Ukraine for the whole thing, certainly didn't blame Russia. And then since then, we've had a number of other comments from the president where he can't seem, except I think when he went on with Kilbeat on the radio, maybe seemed to acknowledge a little bit, but for the most part, has not been acknowledging it was Russia that invaded. That's why I thought what you wrote about, and you can explain it to people who didn't read it on Axios today, was interesting because, at first glance, or at any glance, it's a very easy story to cover in many ways because it's not true. Russia. The truth is Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay, end of story. Russia's our ally, or Ukraine's our ally. Russia's an adversary. Okay, why is Trump rooting for Russia? All those stories were getting written, and then you come along and write this piece citing a number of Trump officials that you spoke to say that there is more thinking to this on the president's side, and it goes back to like 2008. Explain what he really thinks.
The best we can tell is that when Donald Trump made that comment, which was wrong or false suggestion, that Ukraine started the war, he was sort of crossing his wires and was hearkening back to the unfortunate history of the United States, of NATO, of European allies, who sort of botched handling Russia and the expansion of NATO that began in 2008. They basically sprung it on Vladimir Putin at a meeting in Bucharest, pardon me. Hey, we're going to eventually offer NATO membership to Ukraine. And for Russia, this is just a non-starter. That historically, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union and was closely allied with Russia. It's right on its border. NATO was founded as an anti-Soviet military alliance. So the idea that this would take root on its border freaked Putin out, and understandably so. And then in 2014, a pro-Putin president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, fled after there were mass demonstrations because he was too pro-Putin and had turned away from Europe. And there was a move to move Ukraine closer to Europe. And in 2014, Putin used that as an excuse to invade Ukraine, Crimea, and seize Crimea. So these are just two historical dates, 2008 and 2014. That's important to just understand where Trump is coming from in saying what he said.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.